You're inside the Taylor Tilton Hour. Be sure to check out our podcast, The Taylor Tilton Show, streaming live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central on YouTube and Facebook with replays on Spotify and Google. Then enjoy the Taylor Tilton Hour on Comcast channels throughout the Southeast. For more information about the host of the show, visit ChristieTaylorConsulting.com. Welcome to the Christie Taylor Show. I'm your host, Christie Taylor. Super excited to have you here on yet another amazing interview. And I'm so lucky. I have a chance to reach back into my archives, I should say, and bring somebody back to the show who I had the pleasure of speaking to earlier this year. And he has been crazy busy. I'm talking about Roger Ortega, a singer, songwriter, producer, and a voting member of the Grammy Association, still evolving as an artist. His album, R&B Pop Writer, released in 2012, hit number 62, and his album, The Lottery, went to number 8 in 2015. Now, Roger has opened for various artists such as Aaron Carter, O-Town, Color Me Bad, and Jay-Z. Now, during 2020, as with many of us amid the pandemic, Roger kept the music flowing and entertained his fan base with a digital weekly show. Now, his latest studio album, which has kept him busy all this year, Midwest Charm, released on his website. And it is a nod to his return to Kansas after years on the East Coast. Now, his single, Back to Kansas, on his latest studio album was released in July, which told Roger's story of the last 28 years as he moved from Kansas to New Jersey and returning to Kansas this year. Truly a project chronicling his full circle journey. Help me welcome Roger Ortega. 28 years. What?
Well, 23, but it felt like 28. It might as well have been 28.
Okay, I'm adding a couple of years onto that. Well, first of all, welcome back to the Christie Taylor Show.
It's good to be back.
It truly is a pleasure. Now, of course, for those who may have missed, I'll call it part 1 of 2022. Just give them a background on who you are, Roger, and the amazing career that you've had and how you got started from Kansas to the East Coast to bring us back to the
yeah. So, hello everyone. My name is Roger Ortega. I'm an R&B pop recording artist. I've been doing this since I was 14. I grew up in a musical family and always knew that I wanted to pursue music. So I put together a pop group when I was 14 years old. Eventually, we got a production deal, moved out to New York. Things fell apart and I walked away. That was it. And then I came back to music, started writing and, for other artists, and eventually got my own record deal with an independent label called Mina Keys. Put out the album in 2012 and have been very blessed to have some success in this crazy industry. So being out there on the East Coast, we're out there for 23 years. After that, it was just, it was time to come home.
Now, I would like for you to, of course, applaud you for this full circle musical journey and life journey. Just kind of set the stage on what was happening or has been happening for you since the pandemic, particularly because for a lot of people, that was a reawakening and caused many of us to do like crazy things like move back home or leave our jobs or, things that normally would not have happened. Could you explain that to us?
Yeah, with the pandemic, as far as I was concerned, it was actually nice to be grounded at home, to spend time with my wife and my daughters and whatnot. I also used that time to learn how to play the piano. So I've since added another element to my show, and it's been amazing. But the decision to move home was more of a personal-based decision than anything. My wife had been working for this lady for 17 years. She was very much like our mother. Her and her husband didn't have kids. And our parents were back in Kansas, to be quite frank. So we kind of filled a void for each other. And our girls called them Nana and Poppy and whatnot. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2016, the same year as my dad. And then she passed away about, just about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And so that was kind of the one thing that was keeping us there, because they didn't have kids, so we didn't want to leave her out there. And once she passed, we're like, okay, I can do music from anywhere. And we're kind of wanting to go somewhere where we can slow down, somewhere where our money will go further. And we looked at so many places: North Carolina, Texas, Florida, and Kansas was the last place on our list. But Kansas had family, and none of those other places did, unfortunately. So thought we'd come home and be with our family. So here we are.
I really love the fact that, first of all, the fact that you all have had an amazing relationship with a wonderful couple, and we bless their life and their memory. And of course, being able to then just take inventory of your life as is. And where were you professionally? As you said, you can do music anywhere, because you came off of releasing content and music videos and learning how to play the piano in 2020 into 2021. Let's talk about what was happening with you, even with that leads us to Kansas and leads us to the new studio album.
There was never really a plan to do a third album. I figured I was so happy with the success of the first two albums that I would just, put out some singles, do some shows and whatnot. But there was never really a plan for that. Then I started learning how to play the piano. And then I started getting inspired.
Wonderfully so.
Yeah, thank you. And I started writing songs, and before I knew it, I'm like, I think we might have another album on our hands. And I always knew that if I had written or put out a third album, it was going to be called Midwest Charm. And that would be just kind of a take on my personality, really. New York is a really tough place to be. The East Coast is really tough, the Northeast. And through it all, I never lost my smile, and I never lost sight of the fact that you respect people and you treat them with respect and you make them feel warm and comfortable. And that's just kind of my upbringing. And that's where the title of my third album, Midwest Charm, comes in. But once we decided to move home, I knew for a fact there was going to be an album. And I knew the first song was going to be called Back to Kansas. And that was going to be how we announced coming home, because we didn't tell a soul. I take that back. We didn't tell a soul in Kansas except our mothers. No one else knew. So we surprised everyone. And we didn't surprise them until we were already here and had them over for a party, for what they thought was just a regular graduation party at an Airbnb. But it wasn't an Airbnb. It was our home. So, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about how you actually did that reveal, because since our first, interview, I started following you across your social media platforms. I remember this Facebook video that landed on my timeline, and I really loved it. Can you just kind of set that up, because it was so many family and friends outside, and true enough, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it was the quickest turnaround you'll ever see. We brought our trucks in on Sunday night. We got to Kansas. We had this party set up for the following Saturday. So we had 5 days to get our house in order to make it look like an Airbnb, so people didn't come in and see like empty places, nothing on the walls. So we moved everything in. We unboxed about 70% of our stuff. Painted, whatnot, had the family over under the guise that we were having a graduation party for our oldest daughter, who just graduated high school. So we had everyone here, and she announced that she's going to go to Johnson County Community College, which is here in Overland Park. And everyone was like, "Oh, that's weird. You're going to come all the way from the East Coast to go to the community college here?" And so then my youngest one then announced, and this is not an Airbnb, this is our home. And the look on everyone's face, and it was just priceless. I mean, there were tears of joy, and we were fighting back tears, and if we even fought them back. And it was just, no one could believe that we came home, let alone us, But I got to tell you, Christy, it's been the smoothest transition, and we've never been happier. We're happy people. My wife and I wrote a song a few years ago called Pray for You. And
Yes.
in
Yes.
that song, I say, maybe an argument, never a fight, because we don't fight. We
Yeah.
might disagree about some things, but we don't fight. There's never like any mean words to each other or anything like that. We're just happy people, but we've never been happier than we are here, and relaxed, and just this is. We were walking. We went to a restaurant the first week we were here, and we were walking home and walking through our neighborhood, and we're like, this is kind of the place that we used to dream of growing up, like living in a home like this, or a neighborhood
Mhm.
like this. And now we get to raise our girls here. And
Wow.
I just was like, I had to pinch myself. I'm like, okay, when's the other shoe going to drop? Why is this going so well? And I had a show in New Jersey a few weeks ago, and while I was there, I was stuck in traffic, and my wife was like, "Do you miss it?" And I was like, I miss the people. I don't miss a lot of it though. I think we've run our course there." She's like, "Well, why do you think it's going so good for us here?" And I was like, "Because we were ready. If we would have left a year, 2 years, maybe 3, 5 years ago, I would have felt like we left something on the table out on the East Coast. But I feel like we accomplished everything we wanted to. My music career took off. My wife had a great career. We had an amazing support out there with what we called our East Coast parents. We had a life that we dreamed of, and now it's just gone to a whole nother level that we're here, and I can just drop in on my mom, and people are loving the song "Back to Kansas" out here, as you can imagine. So
Yes.
we're performing the heck out of that song everywhere we go. So.
I like the fact that, even since the pandemic, and just like I said, following your expanding, evolving career as an artist over the last, 12 months, that you have been able to incorporate family in a new way. And
Yeah.
I would just love for you to, share with us how you put the album together. And then we're going to really just talk more so about the songs that are on it. So,
Perfect.
and shout out to all your friends and your music friends who have been really supportive of you, like Nitty Greenham and things of that nature. But let's talk about the album, the title. How did it come
Mhm.
up with the title? I know you said it was going to be the title regardless
Yeah.
if you did one. But let's just kind of dive deeper into that.
Sure. I was actually leaving the studio one night. It was probably midnight, 2 in the morning. I was getting on a bus at the Port Authority in New York City while I was making the album, The Lottery. And I was just about done with it. And I remember stopping to let a lady go on the bus before me. And Midwest Charm just popped into my head. And I thought, that'd be an interesting name for an album someday. Midwest Charm. I'm like, I'm gonna put that away. And I started
Yeah.
thinking about it. I said, if I do, it started giving me an idea for a concept album to where I was gonna do an album. If I was gonna do an album, Midwest Charm was gonna be an album only using people from the Midwest, features, perform or producers, songwriters, whatever. If I use songwriters, um, put that away. I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna focus on this album and go. And then I never thought about it again until I started noticing I had a collection of songs that would fit well together.
Wow.
And then I noticed at that point I'd already been working, a few songs deep in with my producer from Brooklyn. And I had a song, I'd written a song about right before the pandemic, actually. I flew home, met with the producer here in Kansas, and I said, I
Wow.
have this idea for a song called Midwest Charm. And so we wrote the song together. And it's a great song about how, mama didn't raise me right. She instilled in me how to treat a woman, love her properly, and all that fun stuff. And I wanted to make it about how you should treat a woman. Um, as I started recording my vocals, so about 2 years, 3 years later, whenever after the pandemic, so last year, my producer in Brooklyn's like, he goes, it'd be really cool if you had a country singer on this song too. And I was like,
Oh my.
I was like, yeah.
Hmm.
But if I feature anybody on this song, they gotta be from the Midwest. And so I
Yeah.
found a country singer here in Kansas who was really had no idea who I was. I had no idea who he was. I just found him, through some people, watched his stuff. His name was Caleb Nelson, and he came to the studio. He wrote his verse and sang his part, and it adds so much. And then I thought, well, now I want to have like a Midwest rapper on it too, because I wanted to have three
That's
different
right.
three
Yeah.
different yeah just three different angles on how you would treat someone.
Mhm.
And I don't know if we're going to do a music video for it or not, but I already have the concept, and the concept is really, again, each one of us, how we would be getting ready for our dates with our women,
Yeah.
and what that date would look like, and it would be 3 different dates. I would do it totally different than maybe the country singer would, or the rapper would, So I wanted to make sure that I did that. And the idea was to have most of the album done, or all the album done, before I moved here in June. But that didn't happen. And I was way behind by the time I got here. And I thought, how fitting, because now I had to use Midwest people to finish this album, because now, I could send my vocals and everything back to be recorded or mixed and everything, but I had to use local talent to get this album done. And that's why it happened this way. I'm so proud of this album, Christie. So proud.
Wow. Roger, of course, there are so many amazing layers to this story. And I'm just going to show very quickly just this particular, the exclusive edition Midwest Charm. There you are, looking all suited and booted. I'm really checking out the vibe that you're bringing to this. Now, of course, I know that, as you say, you've always maintained, thankfully, your Midwest charm, even while living on the East Coast over 20 years. And for that story to be how you treated a woman, while you were in passing, speaks to that. So in coming back home, I just wanted to note that. So applaud you on that, and maintaining that and promoting that. Yeah, in the Midwest and in the South, there's a level of hospitality that we are that's embedded in us, and to be able to have a musical gift that you're giving to the world that celebrates that is beautiful. Now, I would like for you, if you don't mind, just to kind of take us through your songs that you have, and then maybe particularly the title one. If you don't mind, just give us, how you came up with that particular story, would be amazing.
So there's actually 2 versions of the album. The one that cover you just used now is the exclusive edition, which is only available on my website, RogerOrtega.com. I did that to fight Spotify a little bit, because once it goes to Spotify, they take a lot of our royalties. And so I thought, well, let me release a version on my website. This way my fans can go buy it there, and I can make up for a lot of the money that we may not make on Spotify. So there's 2 versions of the album. Most of it, I would say 90% of them are the same, but there's a few songs that each version has that the other one doesn't. Back to Kansas, again, was our announcement. Dirty Sheets, I love that song. It's the second song on both albums, and it's got almost like a kind of a Maroon 5-ish kind of vibe to it, kind of a fun pop song about like a guy who's just missing his ex-girlfriend. She's moved on. He's okay, but he misses her. And, a lot of that plays into Jersey, and like you said in the beginning, this album is a love letter to New Jersey and New York and Kansas and my wife, to be quite frank. And Dirty Sheets is, a lot of people, they always say Dirty Jersey, you know what I mean? It's just,
okay.
And so these, and so there's, like you said, there's some layers of things that most people aren't gonna pick up on that, but I know it's there, and so it's like, okay, well, listen, I miss Jersey, I miss Dirty Jersey, you know what I mean? And I do. There are certain aspects I do miss in New Jersey. So that song's a fun song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. The next one is called Hot Tonight, and Hot Tonight kind of has like an 80s kind of vibe to it. It's almost like a little bit of 80s, a little bit of Bee Gees almost as well, like 70s Bee Gees vibe. Some like El DeBarge vibe. It's a cool song. I love, people really like that song too. So there's just so many. Wake Me From Nightmares. Wake Me From Nightmares is the 4th song on both albums. And that one, actually, I wrote that on the piano. I came up with these chords, and it was when I wrote the song, I was like, what am I going to, you write kind of, the words started coming out of me, but it was based on a true story. It's based on the fact that I have these nightmares. I have nightmares of ghosts, and it's a recurring nightmare. Sometimes I can control the ghost, sometimes I can't. But oftentimes, I don't know if you've had that kind of nightmare where you can't talk, where you're like making noises, but you can't wake up. You're like trying to wake up and you can't. You're like, you know. But I had one of those nightmares, and it was recently when I'd written a song, and my wife woke me up, and I was like, oh my God, thank God she's here to do this. What would happen if I couldn't wake up? And I was like, you wake me from nightmares. And it's the first line is, they say beauty fades, yet yours remains, you know, always getting better when I'm fed up with my life. And this is a song to my wife. It's like, you wake me from nightmares. You help me to breathe when I can't speak. And what that line means is like, you help me to breathe when I'm having those nightmares and I can't say the words, you know. It's just, oh man, people love that song. That song is a movie song. Like that's a soundtrack song.
Okay. That's a soundtrack song, you know, particularly like I love, and I hope you get a chance to do music videos for quite a few, because even as you said, you taught yourself how to play the piano during the pandemic, and that beautiful song that was an ode to your wife as well, something that came out of you, as you say, you know, praying for her while she was asleep, and beautifully shot, beautifully done. So hopefully you can, you know, tap into the film community in Kansas and also, you know, bring those songs to life. Now, of course, I know your wife has heard the album. What's her favorite song?
You know, she says there's a different one. That's the thing I hear from everybody. Everyone is like, this is the best. Each song is my favorite song until I hear the next one. It depends on what you're doing. So we were in Dominican Republic on vacation.
Okay.
And I wrote 3 songs while I was there. I didn't plan to. But when inspiration hits, one of the songs is in Spanish. It's called Baila Toda la Noche. And what I love about that song is that I don't speak Spanish. I just don't. However, I wrote a song in Spanish thanks to Google Translate. It was a kind of a difficult process because Spanish doesn't line up with English. Like if I say whatever I want to say, okay, great. Now I want to rhyme this word with, you know, another word. But the word is now that the way Spanish puts it, that word is at the beginning of the sentence, you know. So it was a little bit of a process, but I got it all done. And the song is really fun because it's basically about that. It's like, I don't speak Spanish, but I was at a club and I saw this girl. We made eye contact. She was feeling the music. She came over to me, said something in Spanish. And I was like, oh, I didn't understand what that was. But through her body language, all of a sudden, I'm fluent in Spanish and I'm speaking and singing in Spanish. And it's a fun song. So, so there's some Spanish on this album. There's a little bit of country. We had the Midwest Charm song. But I also wrote another song called New York Vibe, which I just understand that quite a few clubs are picking up on it to play it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That song features my friend Nitty Green. I think you know Nitty.
I had a chance to interview him as well.
Yeah, so it's got Nitty Green, it's got my producer Edson Sean, and it's got my boy Law. I don't know if you've had Law on your show.
Yes, I had Law on my show too.
So those
that
guys.
Was a reunion. That was a reunion.
It was so much fun. And what was fun about that song is we all wrote. I wrote the verse, my verse, and Nitty's verse, and the chorus while I was in Dominican Republic. Sent it to the rappers. They did their thing. But like I said, I came back for a show in New Jersey a couple months ago. No, last month, a couple weeks almost. A few weeks ago, actually. And while we were there, we got together and we shot some content so that I can maybe put together a video for that. But we're definitely going to have some reels that we're going to put out and, you know, have some video content. But it was just cool to be with the guys. And I trust those guys so much and I value their musical opinions. Like they tell me the truth. There's been songs that are like, that's cool. That's not you, you know. This album, Nitty just messaged me again yesterday. And this has been weeks since we talked. And he told me this when I saw him. He said, man, he goes, I can't stop listening to your album. He goes, every song is a single, man. Every song is a single. And Law, I think Law is going to do a review on the album here soon and put it out. And Edson, you know, helped me produce it. He put in just as much work, if not more, because he mixed it and mastered and all that too, than I did. So he feels like this is his project. But again, my peers are loving this album. And I don't know anyone that's heard this album is like, it's okay. I mean, everything I hear is like, wow, man, these are some really good songs. To me, my album, The Lottery, is the best album I've done between the three albums. But when people started hearing this one, they were like, bro, you've surpassed The Lottery. And that means a lot to me because I set The Lottery at a high level there. So
Wow.
thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, truly evolving as an artist. I was speaking with someone younger who's at the beginning of this path, this creative journey. And I'm still finding new ways to do what we do. And I know that is encouraging to you on so many levels to have your peers who are also still in the game, showing you major, major love. Because beyond the music, I do also know that you love to do your own version of podcasting. And
Yes.
I actually saw a snippet of that interview that you had about a couple weeks ago. You, Law, and I think it was another gentleman. I think it was the producer. And you were really just talking about just music overall. Can we, as we get to the wrap up, talk about, ways that people can support your music and also support your lives that you do?
Yeah. So as far as the music is concerned, you can, if you really want to support it, go to RogerOrtega.com and you can buy the exclusive edition of Midwest Charm there. Or I'm happy with streams on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to that digital music. Roger Ortega will take you to all of those places. And I'm just super excited for you to hear what I've been doing. And it's finally out. It's been, there's a couple songs in the album that I didn't realize were going to be on the album when I wrote them years ago. One of them is I didn't write this song. It was 2 days before I put the album out, the exclusive edition out. And I was looking for something through my internet files, my computer files. And I came across a song called Ladrona. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot I recorded that song. And Ladrona is a song that I used to sing when I first started in music when I was 14 or 15. And I didn't know Spanish music or speak Spanish. But there was this band that one of the guys, my cousin, he used to listen to all the time called La Sombra. And I knew some of their music because my dad played some of their songs. But this particular song they didn't play. It was just a beautiful ballad. It's Ladrona. It's The Thief of My Heart. And I used to love that song. And I think I sang it at like a high school concert, one time. And never thought about it again. And then a few years ago, maybe 2017, I think, I was like searched high and low for this song, but I couldn't find it. They weren't on Spotify. They weren't on iTunes. They weren't on YouTube. Finally, I got a hold of the song, had someone recreate it. I think Edson Sean recreated it. And I recorded it. Forgot all about it. Didn't love the recording and forgot all about it. And then I was like, oh, let me just play this to just hear what this sounds like. And I'm like, holy shit, This is good. This is good. I was like, I called Edson. I was like, yo, did we mix and master this? He's like, yeah, I believe so. Let me check. And he went back to his files. He goes, yeah. I was like, I'm putting this on the album. So
it had to age. I said, so it was like it had to age like fine wine.
Yeah. And so it's on the album and it's nice. I think it's nice that a lot of people hear me sing in Spanish. They've never really done that before.
Yeah.
And so it was cool. So again, you can support me at RogerOrtega.com, Spotify, all that fun stuff. As far as my podcasts, I do a show on Sunday nights on Facebook called Sunday Night with RO. And it's just me and my friends just being silly and stupid and ignorant and sometimes inappropriate. But it's all in good fun. So, but every Sunday night at 9:00 Central.
Wow, I really appreciate this. This is so good. To be able to reconnect you before the end of the year and to see the fun that you've had, the life changes, the musical changes, and everybody, he's a great guy. Make sure you support him. And again, get the exclusive edition on his website. Go to RogerOrtega.com for Midwest Charm. So we want to go to his website, purchase that today, show him all the love. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Christy. Have a wonderful day. Congrats to you on all your success. I love seeing everything you're doing.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate you so much. And hey, of course, you're always welcome back to the Christie Taylor Show.
Thank you so much. Take care.